what time it is. Y'all know what time it is. Welcome to Good the Great Minds Project 5.0. And we about to get started, y'all. I just want y'all to listen to some as I'm gonna start off every day. Just listen, y'all. Just listen. Just listen. I just want y'all to listen. Just pay attention. The beauty of it all. Just listen. Against all odds. Just listen. Against all odds, y'all. I just want the chorus to kick back in because I want us to really just listen to the words and understand where we fit in this equation at. Mm. 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 Wow. Gave me a second chance. Gave me a second chance. All right, y'all. So this is where we at with it. This is episode 2 of Against All Odds. Now, what does it mean to be against all odds? Let me just give you all an example. For myself personally, when I was growing up, people said that the Knuckles boys, which was me and my brothers and cousins, that we would never amount to be anything. That we would end up in jail, we would end up killed, we would end up strung out on drugs. Because that was a reality in the life that I grew up in. That you was either going to end up in jail, killed, or strung out on drugs. That was the reality. Those were the choices that I had. Those were the choices that I had as a physical individual who didn't understand who I was. The choices I had was dead, jail, strung out on drugs. Those three choices. I didn't know I had any other options. So as I was growing up, let me scoot up some because I want to make sure y'all hear me. So as I was growing up, I didn't imagine having any more options than those three because that's all I knew. So with that being said, I adopted one of those options because I only had three. As far as I knew, I only had three. Dead, jail, or strung out on drugs. So I actually chose one of those options. As ludicrous as it may sound, as unintelligent as it may sound right now, I chose one of those options. I chose the streets. Yes, that was one of the options, the streets. So you had dead, jail, or strung out on drugs. I chose the streets, which mean that I would end up dead, in jail, or strung out on drugs. Those were the three options. So, as a youth growing up, I did not have a vision of life that was befitting of my dreams. And so now, because I didn't have a vision of life that was befitting of my dreams, I chose the option that was the only option that I deemed available for me. And so when I chose that option, my life changed. Why did my life change? Because I chose an option that would be chasing after, again, a God that I did not know. A God that had no ears to hear, no heart to save, and no power to save, and no heart to sympathize. So the decisions that I made about my life became the determining factor in the type of odds that I would have. Now, what does that mean? When you repeatedly make bad decisions, the odds become stacked against you higher. Take, for example, the Detroit Lions and their history of how they would just lose games, especially in the fourth quarter, the end of the fourth quarter. So the odds became stacked against them that they couldn't win if they were not leading with 1 second left. If they're in the fourth quarter, the odds are stacked against them that they would win. That was just the truth of the matter. The odds were stacked against them that they would win. Because whatever they was doing, the plays they were making, the decisions they were making, whatever the situation was, caused the odds to be stacked against them. So everybody went against them because they said no, because even if they win it in the fourth quarter, it's the fourth quarter that kills them every time. Now, let's talk about our lives. It's not how you start the race, it's how you end it. And I use the Lions as a great example of it not being how you start the race, it's how you finish it, because the Lions start games off great, but they ended in the worst fashion for so many seasons. Thankful they doing great, better this season. But we're speaking about ourselves and the reality that we live in and the odds that are stacked against us based on our own bad decisions. So now we have the options that's being stacked against us. Let's really delve into that, how the options are stacked against us in such a way that we don't understand, because we're so caught up in, some of us caught up in just being right. Some of us just caught up in being right. We have to be right, because if we ain't right, come on. And that's our problem. We feel like we have to be right. I don't have to be right. You don't have to be wrong for me to feel like I'm right. Both of us can be right. We have to make better decisions for ourselves. And I'm telling y'all firsthand experience that the decisions that we make in life, on thy present choice depends thy future happiness. On thy present choice depends thy future happiness. Understand what I'm saying, understand why I'm saying it. On thy present choice depends thy future happiness. What does that mean? If you make a good decision right now, you can walk in that good decision and be happy, unapologetically living in the good decision that you made. Reaping the benefits of the good decision you made. Gaining the positive energy in the good decision that you made. learning new skills and taking your intelligence to new heights based on a good decision that you made. And these good decisions that you made will pave the way for you to walk in a peace. It'll pave the way for you to walk in a love. It'll pave the way for you to walk in truth. It'll pave the way for you to walk in peace. It'll pave the way for you to walk in freedom. And it'll pave the way for you to walk in justice. On thy present choice depends thy future happiness. We are already against the odds. Because as I said, I grew up to where many of my neighbors, many of the people in the neighborhood, many of the school teachers, school principals, the security at the school, or whatever they were called at that time, crossing guards or whatever, said that I and the Knuckles boys would amount to be nothing. We would end up in jail, dead, or strung out on drugs. And again, I chose the streets. But I just want to say something. I want y'all to listen again, y'all. Just listen to this. Just listen, y'all. Here we go. Give me a second chance. You saved me. You saved me. You saved me. Hey, y'all. So listen. I'm blessed. Hey, if you hate me for how I'm conducting my podcast, my Facebook Live, hey, there's more power to you because, hey, God saved me. Listen, I was in a worse situation. I chose the streets. I only had 3 choices: death, prison, drugged. Listen, I chose the streets. I ended up in prison. I served 28 years in prison. I was sentenced to life without parole in prison. I was sentenced to die in prison as a juvenile. I was sentenced to die in prison as a juvenile. Do you understand what I'm saying? That came on the heels of me being shot in my chest, point blank range, paralyzed from the top up on the left side, that they said I would never move again. They said I would never be able to pick up my feet and walk again right. They said I would never have the mobility again. I'm telling you, have faith. On our present choice depends our future happiness. Choose love instead of hate. Choose truth instead of falsehood. Choose peace instead of disarray. Choose freedom instead of incarceration. Choose justice instead of injustice. Listen, I was shot in my chest. I was paralyzed. They told me I would never be able to walk right again. They told me I would never be able to do this and do that again. I stand before you as a witness to the power that is beyond our comprehension. We just have to bow down to his supreme discretion. Because in 10 days, I checked myself out of the hospital. And when I came back for my checkup a week later, I was walking. No cane, no crutch, no limp, no slide. No slide. Like Kodak Black said, walk, 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 and slide, slide. I didn't have none of that. I walked right in. The doctors and nurses seen me. And they looked at me and they said, wow, how did you do that? I didn't do it. I didn't understand it at the time, but I was saved. Somebody saved me. Somebody protected me. Somebody wrapped their arms around me and kept me because they wanted to use me for a greater purpose. But still, I didn't understand it at the time, so I kept on my path to destruction, self-destruction, destroying my neighborhoods, destroying my community, destroying every life around me, every life that came in contact with me. Little did I know, he was saving me. He was saving me. Even in my darkest moments, he was saving me. Now, I'm telling you, I was against all odds. I had the people in the street trying to kill me. For those who I came in contact with and had problems with, minimal problems with, but we blow it up and to make it seem something that it is not. But I had a problem, and I got shot, and then I got shot again, and then I shot myself. Then I ended up getting arrested for murder. And I got out 7 months and got arrested again. And was sentenced to life without parole in prison, never to see freedom on the outside of the prison gates ever again. But I'm telling you, I went into that prison setting and I was still ignorant to the fact. I didn't understand. All I remembered was that people said that I would never amount to anything. I would end up in prison dead or drugged out. Those are the only things that I can remember. So I lived up to that statistic, that stigma, that criticism, that persecution, that prosecution. I lived up to it. But all the time, I didn't understand it. I'm telling you right now, I didn't understand it even then. I was still being saved because God preserved me. I could have been dead. I could have been dead. I could have been that part of the statistic. I was already mentally dead. I could have been physically dead. But God was saving me for a reason, and I didn't understand it. The odds were against me. I started thinking that I couldn't do this or I couldn't do that. Maybe this was where I was, maybe this was my final destination. Maybe. But I would tell you this here. As I began to grow up around those men who I could not comprehend, couldn't wrap my mind around their intelligence, but yet it was so appealing to me. I didn't understand it. And somehow, some way, the gifts of the understanding are the treasures of Allah. He appointed to everyone his portion in what measure seemeth good unto himself. Have he endowed thee with wisdom? Have he enlightened thy mind with the knowledge of truth? They was communicating to the wise for their own improvement and communicating to the ignorant for their own improvement. Communicating to the wise for their own instruction and communicating to the ignorant. So listen, I was ignorant. They was communicating to me for my instruction. I didn't understand it at the time. I'm not going to play like I understood it at the time. But I will tell you this here. That those brothers that took me under their wing when they didn't have to. Keep in mind, y'all, these guys, a lot of these guys had life without parole in prison too. They had their own problems they was trying to deal with. But yet, they found it in them to bestow upon me a knowledge that someone somewhere down the line before me bestowed upon them. Remember, I told y'all in episode 1 that the blessings are not yours till you give it away. Here it was, they was giving me something that had been given them. They used it, they drank a little bit of the water, they said, I'm passing it along. Someone else needs to know about this. Because this means nothing to me if I don't share it. It means nothing to me if I don't share it. Those brothers shared with me a knowledge of manhood, a knowledge of growth and development, a knowledge that could not be circumscribed, a knowledge that was unlike anything that I have ever seen, ever known, ever heard to this very day. So many brothers, that village. We're taught to watch the bent of the inclination of a child and let no bad habits gain strength with his years as he grow. Don't let those bad habits gain strength with him as he grow. Keep him focused on that which is right. That way, his decisions will be right. Because on thy present choice depends thy future happiness. We are already against all odds. So let me tell you something, y'all. So it'll be in my book that will soon be coming out. But I'm going to tell you something. It took me many, many years up into my 20s, approximately 26 years old, to where I really realized while sitting in the prison cell that I had life without parole. I had been in prison about 5 years at that time. My fault. No, I had been in prison about 7 years. About 7 or 8 years at that time. And I realized in that moment that I had life without parole in prison. Wow. I said, I got to get out of prison. I remember something my mother told me some years before she passed away. This was like 93. She called me TJ. TJ. And so she said, TJ, she said, I love you. I'm your mother. I know I don't say it a lot. She said, but I want you to know that even if I passed away, you still have to fight for your freedom because you got to get out of here. Don't worry about me. Worry about the fight that you have in front of you. She was telling me about the odds. I didn't understand it at the time. I was 1993. She was telling me about the odds. She was telling me about the odds and how to defeat the odds, how to overcome the odds. She overcame drug abuse. My Aunt May overcame drug abuse. She was telling me about the odds. But it took until into my 25, 26 years old that I realized and looked back on the wisdom that she was giving me. I really looked back on it because it was by that time that, like I said, I had realized that I had life without parole in prison. And I did not want to die in prison. My friend Daniels Bay, Kyle Daniels Bay, very good brother, one of my closest friends. I remember we used to do poetry in prison. And by the way, I still do poetry if you all want to book me. And Daniels Bay said, we need to come together and write a poem called I Don't Want to Die in Prison. And I was like, man, I love that thought. I love that idea. And the blessings began falling upon us. It began falling upon us so much so that we were wrapped in so many blessings and in so much love that when I looked outside of my body, I didn't see anything but blessings and love. I couldn't see past blessings and love. And so it became upon me that I had to share that with other people, because by this time I had realized that, again, those blessings weren't meant for me. They were meant for other people. I was the vehicle to get them to them, and that was my blessing. The fact that God was using me as a vehicle, that was my blessing, not the actual blessings that he put in my hand. It was like, for example, in prison, I studied law for 25 years. And I studied many facets of the law. But I didn't study for me, because some of the stuff I was studying didn't apply to me at all. I studied for what it could mean to someone else. That's what I studied it for, y'all. Because I understood early on that sometimes we receive a certain knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of a certain thing that is not meant for us. It wasn't meant for us. And when you know that, you have to give it, find its proper person or people and give it to them. So as I grew up in prison, I learned that. And so again, I was against all odds, but I never gave up on me. I surrendered myself to my lower self, to that devil within me, as I was telling you all about in episode 1. If man will find his devil, he must look within. His name is self. Just like if man will find his savior, he must look within. Him too is his name self. Because you have the duality of life, which is the good and the bad of you. And so I'm telling you, I'm trying to inspire you. I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to guide you. I'm walking with you. I'm talking with you. I'm your brother, true and true, through and through. Listen, I'm not just sharing this with you. I'm listening to myself speak, because the words that I speak are meant for me as well. I've been through hell and back. What I'm telling you, my people, is that a brother once told me a lot of years ago. He said, if you think you're going through hell, he said, just keep going. Don't turn back. Because then it's like traveling a mile into hell. And if you turn around, you got to travel a mile back and try to find your way out of it. And it never ends. If you're going through hell, keep going. Because if you realize that you're going through hell, then this means that you are conscious. And if you are conscious, this means that God can speak to you, because you are conscious. You are listening to your thoughts. And God will take you through that hell to get to your heaven. You hear what I said? God will take you through that hell to get you to your heaven. And heaven is not a place of meets and bounds. It's a state of mind. He'll take you through it. And again, I'm not getting all biblical and all that stuff. I'm talking about the choices that we make. We are against all odds, because in latter episodes of my show, we're going to talk about our communities, how to rebuild, heal our communities. We're going to talk about criminal justice reform. We're going to talk about our women and how we need to be better men, better fathers, better sons, better community members, better leaders. We'll talk about all of this stuff, because my show is based on the truth. And I'm going to have some guests on my show to help share love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice with my audience. But listen, I don't want to hold y'all up too long. I didn't got like almost 30 minutes out your day already. And I hope that something that I said helped somebody, because that's the only reason I said it. I didn't say it to not help anybody. So with that, I'm going to end with love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. So listen here, y'all. This is what I want y'all to do. subscribe to my YouTube channel. Like and subscribe to my YouTube channel, first of all, and like my Facebook page. My new Facebook page is the Great Minds Project 5.0 on YouTube, on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter. I'm there. I'm there. Subscribe and like my channel. If you want to hear me, if you are inspired by anything that I've said, if you love anything that I've said, if you want to walk and talk with me through this journey of life, if you want to be inspired, if you want to know how I found it in me to fight for those who can't fight for themselves, speak for the voiceless, stand up for those who can't stand up, don't know how to stand up or scared to stand up. If you want to know these things about me, please like and subscribe my YouTube channel, like my Facebook page, my Instagram page, go on my Twitter channel, all of that. You can find me at Demetrius Knucklesel. That's Demetrius Knucklesel, and my other channel, which is the Great Minds Project 5.0 on all social media platforms. I'm out. Peace and love to those within the sound of my voice. But those who cannot hear the sound of my voice, I say pass along the message because someone needs to be inspired.